Ladies and gentlemen, this is Harry Bryan with Nicest Corporation, and you are listening to the Galaxy's #1 3 pest control training program, the Pest Geek Podcast, hosted by my friend Frank Hernandez. Take it away, Frank.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your pest geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube. We're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And now for today's topic. Hey, I got on the phone Tommy Powell with MGK. Hey, Tommy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I was trying to, as we were having a conversation, trying to figure out how we got together. And I think one of your local reps that I think we got hooked up on Messenger in a group put us together. I'm trying to recall the whole conversation about how we got together to do this, but we've been planning it for over a month now. And you know, I've been
absolutely
I've been booked here and trying to get everybody on. So yeah, who's the local rep here in my area in Florida? I think that got us together.
His name is Matt Kinney. Matt Kinney was the local rep who told me about your podcast, and yeah, I'm excited to be here. I understand. You know, it's the busy time of year. You know, it's kind of hard to take time off.
Yeah, no, it's going crazier than I thought, because we thought with the weather, it's been just horrible here with rain. We usually get the rains mid-June to late June. We've got them like last month at the middle of the month, and it had, I mean, for almost, I think, no, it was like the first week of the month. I took off for like 5 days. It rained the whole time I was off. I went into the Tennessee mountains and took some time off. I said, it's raining, you know, let's take some time off and give it some chance. It's going to be raining all week. And I came back and it was still raining. And it was raining a week after that. And it's just been crazy with the business growth because it's caused so many calls. And we're in the middle of hiring, and I'm hiring 2 people right now. And I have 1 temp, 1 part-timer, and then I'm hiring a full-timer right now, and we've just been growing unbelievably this last year. And I'm to the point where I'm tired of the 80-hour weeks by myself and my wife and another person, and we just can't keep up. So it's been good, but it's, you know, trying to get everything done. It's just been, you know, kind of stressful to take time off. So, you know, trying to not to do anything is really hard. It's hard
absolutely.
work. Absolutely. So that's what I've been, you know, where we've been. But talk to me about we're going to be talking about MGK, and you got an exciting new product that's out, which I got excited about. I posted this on a couple of groups about this new product, and we're going to be discussing that. But let's just get the audience to get to know you. And how did you get involved in pest control to begin with? How did that get started?
So I grew up in Vero Beach, Florida, and I worked as a summer intern for Bayer Crop Science. So I was working in their local lab in Vero Beach, and I was going to be a computer science major, and my boss convinced me that I loved working with insects so much. He convinced me to go to school. So I went to school at the University of Florida, got my master's degree with Dr. Phil Kaler.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So I'm an urban entomologist and with him, and I didn't think I'd get into pest control. We talked about that earlier. My goal was to work for a company like MGK, but right out of school, I went to a company called Clegg's Pest Control in North Carolina. Came down and interviewed all the students, and Mr. Clegg brought me up here to North Carolina, and I fell in love with the trees and the state of North Carolina. I still live in North Carolina. So I took that job in pest control as a technical director, and I been doing that for 16 years now. So part of my career, though, it's funny, I had two little babies. I have two boys, and they were just so little that I was traveling so much. I actually became a branch manager, so I ran a branch for about 5 years.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit different of a entomologist, where I have a lot of practical experience with customers, going out and do treatments. When I left my branch, we had 52 employees, so it was a pretty large operation. And I know you know, because you're running your own company, that people are the biggest headache. So
yes.
Having all those people in my office, I eventually decided going back into technical was much easier. So did that, and finally the job at MGK came open, and I liked MGK for a long time because they had some really innovative products out there, and then I fell in love with Vendetta Plus, and I thought, hey, wow, this is really kind of cool that they're doing these things. And when the job came open, I interviewed for it, and here I am. So I'm a technical field specialist with MGK. I get out in the field and do a lot of training, and working with pest control operators is what I do on a daily basis.
And what territory do you cover? Like how big of an area are you traveling to or dealing with?
So there's two of us. So if you look at the map, Kansas City is the dividing line. So right now, and we're growing the technical department. So I think they're going to hire another rep in the north. So currently, though, I'm the East Coast rep. So I cover the whole East Coast of the state, of the country.
Of the country. Sorry. from well, like you're that's like just a little bit west of the Mississippi.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're just because I used to cover when I was.
And there's some times where I go to other states. I've been to other states to help out my counterpart. We're not very hey, I'm not going to go into your territory, but we support our sales reps in the different territories pretty liberally.
So do you oversee sales reps, or do you just oversee the technical part of being in the field?
The technical part, so okay. I'm more of a support role. So gotcha. I would, so if a sales rep came in and wanted to bring me along to help with training, or I've done a lot of protocol work, and with my experience, actually, I've helped some companies with routing because, I've had that practical experience, so I've got a lot of that business experience, so I've done all that.
Yeah, that is a nightmare for us too right now, trying to figure out routing as you're growing, and I've just decided to do it a little bit differently than most people are, just simply because of I want, the biggest challenge I see, and you have the experience in this, and I've seen it now for 12 years doing this and talking to other companies and dealing with, since we got into the routing thing, where the industry is pretty much still on production pay, where you have your own, pretty much your technicians are pretty much running their own little independent business for the most part. I mean, they set their their schedules, they're dealing with the customers, they're collecting money, they're doing the routing, if they don't work that day, they don't get paid because they're on production. And I decided to do because my background is originally what you were going to go into. I did a lot of IT and tech support. And we used to have different level techs. So I'm used to different level tier techs of doing specific work. And so I bring my experience from other type of tech work in glass and in other types of fields, and I just see things a little bit differently. So I decided we're not going to do production pay. We're going to do hourly with bonuses and commission and things to help motivate them, but also create the collaboration in the business, because sometimes if you're out on your route, you got nobody to run that route. The next day you're backed up, you're working Sunday. So trying to
absolutely.
Yeah, trying to do all that and trying to do something different.
No, that sounds really interesting. I love, that's what's amazing about pest control, and fell in love with the business, fell in love with the customer service aspect, but talking to different people, and it's great with pest control. People like yourself are willing to share, hey, here's how I'm doing it, and here's what's successful to me, and I think that's great, and it makes us all better, and learning a different way you can motivate your employees by, with bonuses and incentive to do different things. that's really cool.
Yeah, so we cross-train a lot, and we're doing, so if somebody is out sick that day and they need to be out, that, you're not penalized by your production, and you're saying you can take on somebody else's route because you're still getting paid. And there's a lot of collaboration that we're trying to create, where we're also sharing of experiences and sharing of what the techs are experiencing so they can help their peers. So there is no, I was in sales, and I was in commission sales for the longest time. I know the piranha pit mentality, where this is my customer, my base, my this, my that. We're trying to go around a lot of those issues, and I've seen it in the pest control. I just bring it differently from what I know in different fields, and I'm bringing different things that I learned into my business that from pest control, and not following, what other people are doing. Because a lot of the time that's what we do. We learned to do it this way. We used to work at this company. It didn't work really well because we weren't happy there, but we're going to duplicate the same thing they were doing because that's all we know to do. So you keep, this cycle keeps repeating itself, and you make the same thing basically a duplicate of what you left. It's just you're doing it on your terms. So I think that, doing that and giving people different views, not, my view is my view. I'm the world's foremost authority on my opinion. You can be wrong if you want to disagree with me, but that's okay. We can have fun with it and share. And I think there's some really bright people that we're talking to in the industry that have done way more than I'm doing. They've accomplished way more. And I think, having that help in not only the technical aspect and the training, but also in the business development side, to try to help people.
Oh, absolutely.
And also we're trying. I understood this about a decade ago in a different field. And one of the people I used to work for says, Frank, if you want to get things done, you pretty much have to go direct to the consumer and getting the word out in the grassroots level directly to the consumer. Trying to do it a lot of times through the association, or trying to do it through groups that are established, you're just beating yourself against a wall. And this was in a completely unrelated field, but things happen. People, put up their little groups, their thing, the way it's done, and you can't break out for that. And what we're trying to do is say, I said, when I started the new year, I said, we really got to go out and talk directly to the end user that's going to buy ultimately our product, and educate them. And educate them about what real pest control is, because I still get a lot of customers, especially here in South Florida, that come from Latin America, and their idea of pest control is spray everything, and the more toxic, the better. I'm, selling something different, and so we're trying to really educate people on what integrated pest management is, what exclusion is, how's the best way to solve these problems, and ultimately you end up with a better client for the entire industry. So I think that, that's where we're kind of headed, and so anything that you can bring to the table that can help the end consumer, bring the end consumer together with the pest control company to ultimately have a great relationship and understanding, and manage the real expectations of a lot of customers have unrealistic expectations. And I think as marketers, as salespeople, as business owners, setting the right example, setting the right things that we need to do for the industry so that the customer understands. I think that, and you guys, obviously you have the experience because you've been there. You've done that. You've experienced it. So, that's where we're headed. That's, I think, where we want to go, and with this podcast and help, get an audience that understands what we're doing.
And I think that's where social media is such a great tool for that. It's something I've seen grow. Like you said, there's even pest control groups. Those kind of things are just amazing to me, to see the education going on where people are even customers can post, hey, what is this and what can I expect? And I think it wasn't there a long time ago, when I got out of school.
Yeah, no, I mean, email was about the closest thing most people got to, or I don't know if you remember bulletin boards. If you remember bulletin boards in dial-up.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
In the early days.
I got out of college in 2000, so I've, it's been, yeah, I didn't even have a cell phone.
No, right, and then we went from, I remember my first phone when I was a sales rep, and I used to have a bag phone.
Oh, yeah.
A 3-watt bag phone. Which was, when I went through the airport, people were like, what the heck is that? You look like you're carrying,
you were so cool. You were just like, you probably so cool. Everybody thought, like this guy,
Yeah, no, it was hysterical.
Important.
Yeah, no, so but both they thought I was carrying like C4 on the plane. So they were taking my phone apart in the airport, and I'm like, bro, it's a cell phone. You've never seen a bag phone, and most people have never seen a bag phone before. And then I remember the first time I got a StarTAC. I mean, I remember watching Star Trek as a kid, and then they came out with the StarTAC, and I was the first one to get one of those because I'm just an early adopter. I'm like that, and I remember that. And then we got email, and the technology grew, and now the information and what I keep having in the industry sometimes gets stuck. And what we got to understand that it's really the information age has made the information available. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of bad information out there too. And
that is true.
And we got to help people as pros, because most of the information that's being put out about what pest control is in these groups is mostly by themselves, people using over-the-counter products and not understanding why they're failing. And if we can help people understand why they're failing, most of them will realize this thing is a lot more complicated than we thought. Pest control, there's a lot of science.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things that you're ignorant about that we can educate you about. And I think that like I said, we'll produce a better quality client. One of the things that people are resisting is that information getting out. Unfortunately, it's a buyer's market. It's an employee market. It's a buyer's market. People are more armed with the information. They make better decisions. They ask me hard-boiled questions that I need to be prepared to answer and answer truthfully. And as this technology, we have to adapt and accept it. You can fight it all you want, but the reality is that's where it's going. And the quicker you adapt to it and you realize that that's where it's going, then the quicker you can be successful at it instead of bucking the system. So that's what's going on. And so what I wanted to talk about, tell me a little, because MGK is just one of those companies that are not on the top of the radar for most people. They're not like the Bayer, Syngenta, that we know, all this big giant conglomerate, that owns everything in the world. But I don't know a whole lot about MGK, except you make the 264, which is your own proprietary product. So you do a couple of things. Tell us a bit about the history of the company and what you guys actually do.
So you're absolutely right. Most people know MGK by their products. They Google that. Most of the time, you're going to come up with Machine Gun Kelly. It's a band. MGK. They started out. They're over 100 years old. They started out as a spice company, so they sold spices. And if anybody in pest control knows, when you have food-related products, what do? You get store product pests.
Right.
So MGK, being a spice company, started having all these issues with store product pests, and they really did a lot of research on how can we prevent this. They started using chrysanthemum flowers, whole flowers, ground up flowers, and they became successful transporting spices and keeping the insects out. So eventually they actually hired a chemist, and they said, you know what? We want to manufacture this. We want something not just to get a flower and ground it up. We want to have a production of the actual ingredient that's killing the insects. And so this chemist refined the pyrethrum in the U.S., and they still do it in Minneapolis today. Eventually they became so successful at it that they stopped selling spices. They sold off their spice business, and they manufactured pie and pyrethrum to other manufacturers. So that's still, right now, MGK sells active ingredients to all the companies you just mentioned. And it's still probably part of the biggest part of their business is selling actives to other companies. But then about 2002, we got into the pest control business. So we started selling our own products to pest control and not selling directly to a manufacturer who then turns around and sells it to pest control companies. So
Gotcha.
That's a little bit about our history. And honestly, we've grown so much that we don't sell any rodenticides, we don't sell any termiticides. But if you just look at pest control products, right now MGK is number 4. We're the 4th largest manufacturer of pest control products in that short period of time, which I think, in the history of pest control, that's a short period of time.
Yeah, it is.
We've grown so fast.
So you're almost like a .comer of the pest control business.
Yeah, but I think that's what it's a testament to the products that MGK produces, and they do really. And I've seen it. They do really look at the need in the industry and say, okay, how can we make a specific product that solves the need for that pest control operator? And we want to create the ideal product, not one that is, for everything, but we want to make something that's ideal for this particular situation. They do a lot of that. If you look at their portfolio of products, there's really products that are designed specifically for certain insects. Some of them, they only have one insect on the label. It's a pretty cool company to work for.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit different than what the average pest control guy is looking for. When I talk to people, most of the time they want a product that is broad spectrum, knocks everything out. They only have to use one product. And I think that's not, if you know anything really about pest control, that's not really realistic about pest control, that you need very, very good targeted products to do a lot of targeted things. And the real technician is going to have a good belt on them with a bunch of tools that really help them be able to target things. And especially in the age that we're living, where people, when I started 12 years ago, I started talking to people about IPM and reduction and pesticide reduction and this and that. And a lot of people laughed me out of their house. Today, we rebranded a new company 4 years ago because the acceptance of being eco-friendly and natural is so high that now people are demanding it, the same people that were laughing me out of their house. How things have changed in just 12 years. So I do have products like that you're mentioning that I carry that are highly targeted for just one thing and one thing only. And because that is the best product to use, I know how to precisely use that product because I worked with it. And so I spent the time with it, worked with it, figured out the kinks, and then said, this is the best use of that product so I can most effectively knock this product out without having to spray the whole house, that kind of deal. And so,
exactly.
And I know that you guys, because you talk to me about some of your products. I know we want to get into one specific one, but just to give people, a taste of what you guys actually do. Can you talk about some of your key products that you bring into the marketplace that do those things?
So we have one of the first products that I was introduced to as a technical specialist, which I fell in love with, was Vendetta Plus, which is a cockroach bait. And there's lots of cockroach baits out there, and that didn't really, just having a different cockroach bait, so you can choose from a variety of them. But this one was different because it had an IGR already in the cockroach bait. So, I'm so used to, as protocol, you go out, you treat with a cockroach bait, then you turn around and you have to actually get a sprayer, maybe you got a quart sprayer or something like that, and you're treating with an IGR. This cockroach bait actually had an IGR already in it. So as a technical person, I'm thinking, wow, it makes it easier for the tech to do their job. They don't have to run back to the truck. They might forget to put an IGR out there. It's all in one. It's easy for the tech. So that was one of the products that I fell in love with. So we're big. We have that. We have a couple of bed bug product that is, like I said, there's one that is just for bed bugs. That's Crossfire. We're getting a lot of good success with Crossfire because it is such a good product. It was designed just for bed bugs. It was not designed to treat outside. You can't treat outside with it. You can only treat bed bugs with it. And because of that, we get away with using such a high concentration, we get such long residual crossfire because we're not looking for EPA approval for outdoor use. We're not looking for food tolerances or anything like that. That a lot of, like you said, the general products, when you have a general product, and we have a couple of those, but when you have a general product like that, you've got to get food tolerances, and that lowers your dose. You've got to get all these.
This gives us a glimpse into the industry that sometimes we don't understand why a product is only labeled for this or labeled for that. But if you want to get a product into the marketplace and it's effective for doing one thing, then you don't have to go through all these hurdles to get it into the marketplace of doing all these EPA studies when you have to do ground studies. And, I understand, the degradation studies that have to be done, the fate studies that have to be done. When you're just targeting to one thing, it allows you to bring that product into the marketplace a lot quicker then, if you have an innovative product.
Yes, it does. Yeah, because food tolerance is probably the longest process to have something that has commercial kitchen label and things like that. That takes a long time. And if you want to get a product to market, and that's some technicians wonder, why does this not have a food tolerance on it? Well, that takes a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of time for a manufacturer to do that. And if you target a pesticide to a specific thing like bed bugs, so you need food tolerance for bed bugs. We're not spraying kitchens usually.
Right. Right. All right. So no, that helps us out because we're like, oh, why don't they put this on the label? Why don't they put that on the label? Well, if they wanted to get, if it's really effective at bed bugs and it's, they found that that's a knockout product, it competes in the marketplace with something that isn't there. And you can get it to market very quickly, then I understand the thought process behind not getting it registered for this or getting it registered for that. Since my background is mostly in L&O, I know a lot about the restrictions with a lot of these products, with the issue with runoff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and environmental impact studies that you have to do for exterior products. It's just, a nightmare with that process. But go back to the Vendetta, because I honestly have not used Vendetta, okay? And
so Vendetta, it's a good food matrix for a cockroach bait. It's a really good food matrix. But there's two types of, there's three Vendetta lines. So a Vendetta, which is just ivermectin in the food matrix.
Okay.
Vendetta Plus, which is the same thing as Vendetta, but it actually has Nygaard in it. It actually has an IGR built in to the bait. So cockroaches, bait, we all know the bait doesn't kill immediately unless you're using a fast kill bait like Magnum, or we have an alternative with Vendetta Nitro. So the cockroach is not going to die immediately, so they're going to go back to the harborage area. So they're on this bait, they're touching it with their antennae, and they're consuming it. So you've got an IGR in there that's actually causing that whole IGR effect and affecting the reproduction, affecting the group itself, the group of cockroaches you have in that establishment. So, and you don't have to go back and treat. You don't have to go back with a extra product. It's all in one. And that's, when I first saw that, like I said, I was really impressed. I was like, that is something that is outside the box. Right. And I like that. I love outside the box thinking. I love ideas like we were discussing about your business earlier. I like things like that. So that's what attracted me to MGK in the first place.
Talk about let's talk about the Mosquito product that you just came out with.
Okay.
And let's discuss that, because I know that you've got that new product, and how does that actually work? And I noticed it has a couple of different mixes in there of different things, which I think is a great combination. So tell us about that product.
So we, MGK, like we were talking about before, we went to the industry and we were talking to PMPs about, what the needs are. And I'll be honest, most PMPs have a good mosquito protocol. They when we talked about mosquitoes, they said, we mix this product and this product, and we have a good results with, these 2 or 3 products that they mix together. Mm-hmm. So all MGK did was say, okay, what's working? why can't we make a product that is already mixed together? Wouldn't that be a benefit to the industry where you don't have to take a mixture of 2 different products or 3 different products and do each mixture where it's all in one product? That's why they called it One Guard, because it's all in one. And it's actually got 4 active ingredients, like you just mentioned. It's got multiple active ingredients. So it's got lambda-cyhalothrin, which is the same active ingredient in demand. It's got actually PBO, which PBO it's in a product. PBO doesn't actually, it's something that's actually fighting resistance. So if you know how PBO works, insects that are quick reproductions, like mosquitoes, like German roaches, we all know German roaches are pyrethroid resistant. Well, mosquitoes are too. A lot of us don't talk about resistance in mosquitoes, but resistance in mosquitoes is out there. It's something that's been well documented. It's out there in the environment because it's a quick breeding organism. It has multiple generations. It's that's what causes so they become resistant when you give same pyrethroid treatment. So it's got PBO in there to fight resistance. It's got an IGR, because most operators that we talked to actually said they were mixing an IGR in with a pyrethroid product. So it's got that in there too. And it's got pyrrolithin, which is a quick knockdown agent. You see that a lot in products like Raid, things like that. When you spray Raid on an insect and it flops over immediately, that's what's doing it, is the quick knockdown agent, pyrrolithin, that is actually in One Guard too. So you're going to get quick knockdown at first, so if your customer's upset, they're going to see an immediate result because of that quick knockdown agent. Then they get that long residual with the lambda, the microencapsulated lambda, and we made the microencapsulated specifically for mosquito control. The smaller microcaps work better. So we made that way, and then we put the IGR and the PBO in there to fight resistance, and the IGR to solve water-related issues.
Gotcha.
So that's what I think is a great tool for the pest control operator, where you don't have to know 3 different mixing rates to put your product together.
No, I think it's a great time-solving issue, because in those mixings is where a lot of people just cut corners and they decide not to do one thing, because the time that they have to spend in the field sometimes is astronomical. It does add up, and
Yep.
we've experienced that where different mixes, and we said, well, let's cut it down to 2 mixes, because we don't have the time to mix 4 different measures, especially in micro measurements, and especially with guys using backpacks, misters, which is the predominant thing. So you got to do these micro measurements with syringes in the field. It becomes very difficult unless you make one giant mix, and then that's not a good thing either, to try to run around all day with one mix. So I think that is really innovative. That's one of the things that I got excited about when I first read the label, is because of this. It's just a one product that you can just apply it, and if you're doing the IGR and the synthetic pyrethroid, the microencapsulated, it does that job for you. So I think that is amazing. Let me ask you this, because I know I know you got to catch a flight, but go ahead and tell me your point. I didn't want to cut you off there. I'm sorry.
No. So one of the things that we got, so when we did this, we didn't think about some of the concerns out there. So one of the concerns has always been, do you mix an IGR with an adulticide? Does that work? And we got that question as soon as we came out with the product. We got that question, so we went to a third-party researcher and we said, "Hey, we have NiGuard, we have One Guard, which is an adulticide and an IGR in there. We want to see if there's a difference." So we tested that concept. It doesn't make a difference if you just went out in the backyard and treated with an IGR, or if you went in the backyard and treated with an adulticide in IGR. And our results on our testing was no, it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. The adulticide does not affect the IGR. That if you go out, what's amazing about NiGuard, it works at such low rates. We're talking about parts per billion, a dropper in a pool. We're talking about such low rates that if you go out and you treat an area, somebody's backyard, and you treat a potential breeding site, let's say it's under a deck, let's say it's the bottom of a plant pot that can hold water later on. It's not a water source now, but you know eventually it's going to have water in it. If you treat that area, mosquito comes and she tries to lay eggs in that area, those eggs are never going to become an adult. So we know that, but then what was really cool is the researchers took it a little step further, that female mosquito, when she puts in that water an area that you pre-treated, you treated that surface because you know that area is going to become a breeding source eventually when it rains. She comes and she tries to lay eggs in there. She actually picks up enough Nigard on her feet, on her legs, on her little tarsi, on her legs, and she will take it to other breeding sources. So if there's a tree hole in the backyard that you never saw, and she lands in that plant pot that you pre-treated, and she goes to that tree hole next, and she tries to lay eggs in there, she's going to deposit Nigard into that water source. It's going to stop egg development in that water source too. She can actually, it's called auto-dissemination, she can transfer Nigard from one area to another and do the work for you. She can actually do all that work for you. Areas you never saw, she'll move that Nigard. So, and it doesn't matter if it's Nigard by itself or Nigard mixed with an adulticide. We didn't get any difference, which is pretty cool. I thought that was an amazing study.
Yeah, it's one of those studies that I've asked about in certain groups, and I said, does we understand horizontal transfer in certain products,
right?
And then so how does the IGR basically transfer with the mosquito or just in the area that it's applied? And I've tried to do some studies on it. I haven't devoted any real time to it to try to show that, but I'm glad that you did bring that up because that's one of the questions we get asked is, so if the water source, the great thing is if you got mosquitoes, we got smaller properties we're not doing really acre property, but we got smaller properties, and the next door neighbors are within 100 feet. They have water sources, and I find it all the time. I'll go across the neighborhood and say, there's a bucket full of water there. That's where it's breeding because you don't have any breeding sites on your site. Why do you have so many mosquitoes? It's actually in the neighbors. So that will help bring that population around because they're transmitting it back and forth from where that water source really is. And
yeah, absolutely. And I try to explain to technicians all the time and operators all the time that when you're out doing mosquito control, if you look at their life cycle, all their stages of their life are spent in water. And if you're not addressing the water, that's the biggest part of control. The only stage of their water is the adult stage. And then the adult female, and she's laying eggs in water all the time. So water is a big part of their whole life cycle. And if you know that, and you can use a product like pyroproxyfen, the active ingredient in Nigard, it's great because what's the key there is the active ingredient is such low concentration that a mosquito can actually pick it up and move it like that. It's the only reason why is because it just will control adult emergence at such a small concentration. Doesn't take much.
Right. How does because I understand there's different modes of action with IGRs. Most people are not very familiar with IGRs. I believe it or not, I talk to a lot of people. They've never used an IGR. What is the mode of action, or how does actually this type of active ingredient? How does that mode of action work?
That's funny. I usually use my kids in this story. I always use my kids as an example. So if anybody who has kids, they're angels when they're little, and then I have a 13 and 14-year-old, two boys. So we all know when you hit that 13, 14-year-old, they're getting those hormones in their body, they're changing, they're becoming more defiant, and all those kind of things. Well, insects are totally opposite. So insects, day one, are born with all the hormones they need. And to get to the next stage, they actually have to lose hormone. So every time an insect gets to the next stage, the hormone level has to drop. So it's like a wave. So they go from their larvae stage. They want to get to the next stage of the larvae. They actually have to lose a lot of hormone, and then it goes back up. And then they lose a lot of hormone, and it goes back up. So unlike us, we're gaining hormone as we grow. They're losing it to grow. So all we're doing is adding a little hormone into that environment and keeping them from ever reaching that next stage. So you can see sometimes you put pyroproxyfen in water, and there's lots of larvae in there. And the larvae just die of age, They're just sitting in there at the larvae stage. They can never get to the adult stage because there's too much hormone. They can't lose it. You're actually overloading their system with hormone. They can't lose it. They can't get to the next stage, and they're stuck.
Gotcha.
It's like the Peter Pan syndrome, the never lost boys or whatever they call that.
Yeah, so with the hormone, actually, we don't even have those hormones. So it's not even affecting us because we it's a very low way of a low impact of dealing with, because it only targets that specific mosquito.
That's a good point. It's an insect hormone. It's not something. In fact, and it's not in this country, but in this country, it's we call it it's a low impact. You can say that because we don't have a Nygaard, we don't have those insect hormones. But in some countries, they actually put it right into drinking water where mosquitoes are that important. Like in Africa for malaria, to fight malaria, they use pyroproxyfen pretty liberally because it is such a reduced risk product. It is we don't have those hormones. So getting insect hormone on you is not going to, it's more of a low impact, like you said. I don't like to say anything's perfectly safe,
right,
but it's a lower impact is the word I like to use.
Yeah, if we can start targeting the water areas versus trying to kill the adults. Most people want to kill the adult. The customer doesn't want biting mosquitoes. We understand we got to deal with the larvae where they're growing. We don't have to worry so much about the adult mosquito. That's been our always the battle within the customer and us, that we know what we have to do and they want us to do something different.
And that what I'm usually doing in my mosquito classes, that's the aha moment that I get from the audience is when I go through the life cycle. I don't go into all the different stages, but I'm talking about how important water is. Even the adult stage, the female is going to interact with water. So almost, except for the male, almost every stage of life of a mosquito, they're either in water or they're touching water. So they need water. Water is their critical part of their whole life cycle. So, yeah, having a product that addresses it, if you're using whatever you're using as a mosquito product, using an IGR, I think is critical in that protocol.
Let me ask you something, because I know I've talked on this before. And one of the biggest issues I have with that people don't understand about IGR, it's not a defect in the product, it's just the way it is that they're very, very photosensitive. Where if the biggest degradation that we have with using these products on foliage is actually the photodegradation, how it gets damaged by UV light. With your product, what is the average lifespan in the field of that product, actively working that you know of?
So that's a great question, and photostability, like you said, is very important. And whatever IGR you're looking at, you should definitely try to ask your manufacturer, hey, how photostable is it? Ask the exact question you did. So with Nygaard is extremely photostable. In fact, we've got some studies that say you can get Nygaard lasting 6 months. Outdoors. Now, if you have direct sun contact, it's probably more like 3. But even outdoors, we're very photostable. So if you're applying it to areas under the deck, areas that are somewhat shaded, you're going to get a long residual with Nygaard, and because it's such a photostable product.
Gotcha. So what are we looking at on the average in indirect sunlight or direct sunlight, we're looking about 90 days?
That's a great question. So, I mean, I don't think we've done like, hey, in the typical situation, that's a good study we should do. How long does it last? I would say, an operator could, if they're tank mixing night guard in there, could at least expect 60 days to 90 days worth of residual from any pyroproxyfen product out there on the market.
Because I know it does have...
Pyroproxyfen is why it's so photostable.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most photostable I've seen of all the other IGRs, where you might get 14 days or tops you might get 30 days. So that is impressive that you're getting, because if you can control that, again, the larvae, it's not the killing of the live mosquitoes, but getting that larvae under control. And getting it to spread. So I think that is a winning combination. Anything you want to add, because I know you have to go, that you want to add? How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would love to.
I know. Yeah, no, I could go on for hours.
Forever. I could talk for hours on insect control. It's a passion of mine, and I get really excited about it. But just in general, the last thing I think I want to talk about with mosquito control is something that I think is becoming more and more, it's more public out there, is when we talk about mosquito control to our customers, we should be talking about comfort. We can't guarantee any kind of, disease or vector control. You can't say that if I treat your backyard, you're not going to get West Nile, you're not going to get Zika. Those are not something that we can control, because people walk around every day, and they go to the store, they go to friends' house, so they can be exposed. They go on vacations. That's what I just got back from a vacation. So, they can be exposed to any mosquito anywhere. So we sell comfort. And unlike any other insect, honestly, there's not a single person that probably lives in the USA that has never been bitten by a mosquito. So, some people have never had a cockroach infestations. Some people have never had ants in their home. But everybody's had experience with mosquitoes, and they're uncomfortable. You don't want to be outside with them. You want to enjoy your family outdoors because, if you have kids, you're constantly trying to force your kids to play outside because they're all hooked up into video games and on their phones. And so being able to enjoy that outdoor environment is what we're selling. We're selling comfort in your outdoors and being able to sit outside with your family, and, that's what we sell. And that's something that I like to definitely remind our PMPs about, that's what we sell. We sell comfort.
Yeah, no, definitely different than when ants or with termites that are, your roof is going to cave in if you don't treat it. It is about outdoor enjoyment, because you buy that house for the yard and you want to enjoy it, and you can't because you got a mosquito problem or whatever other insect.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's about the outdoor enjoyment of the property that you own. Anything else? How do people, if people want to look at the product, I'm going to share a link on it. And do you guys have videos on this product or anything that we can share? Because we're going to share that too if we can find it.
Oh, so I've been doing a lot of videos lately. We're going to come out with a new, it's not going to be product driven. It's going to be more of a tips and tricks, Yeah. We have a couple, like even how to maintain a backpack mist blower out there, but we're working on videos. Okay. Part of my job is to do a lot of video training. So I do have some of that. I can share that with you, and you can. But I believe you can go to mgk.com and see some of our videos, and definitely see the product information for OneGuard.
Okay, so it's OneGuard and mgk.com, which is very easy. You can't mess that one up. So, yeah, no problem. So we're going to go ahead and get this out, and hopefully I can produce this today and have it out today, and I'll send you a link on it so you know it's on the air and you can share it with your tribe.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for inviting me. And I would love to anytime. Like I said, you just want to talk about bugs and bug control. That is a passion of mine. It doesn't have to be all about product. It can be even about maintenance of a mist blower. I can go on for a while and talk about that.
Yeah, we can. Let's make it a point whenever you got a little bit of time to come back, and then we can geek out on some other stuff, because I think you do have a neat product line that most people aren't exposed to, and I think we should talk about that more.
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I really appreciate your time, man. Have a great trip, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.